computer. Well, good afternoon, Aidan. How are you, sir?
Doing well, doing well. How are you?
Good, good. I'm glad you were able to get on here this afternoon. And we talked last weekend about maybe getting together and chatting. You've got a big campaign going on for school board at Medina, and it's just been amazing watching how hard you've been working. And I had previously served for 8 years on Medina, and I know we got together several weeks ago and had coffee at Dunkin' Donuts and kind of caught up. I got to meet you, and
Mm.
I got to meet your campaign manager, and I was impressed with the two of you out hustling so hard. And then you were a speaker that night at a very somber event at the Charlie Kirk Memorial. And that was an honor that you got, and you gave a very nice speech. And I appreciated that because honestly, the event wasn't on my radar at that moment. And my wife and I went up there, and it was just so moving to see people from Medina there just honoring the legacy of Charlie Kirk and your involvement with that. But yeah, tell me, you've been involved with that a long time with the Turning Point.
Yeah, I got involved with Turning Point, I want to say around 2021. That's when we started kind of like in the beginning, probably around January or so of 2021, started like hearing about what Turning Point was. Before then, like Young Americans Foundation was the big group, and they still kind of are a very large organization. So got a little bit more involved in Turning Point in about 22, I believe. I went to a conference in Tampa. It was very hot and humid, but it was an enjoyable conference. Got to meet a lot of cool people. Made a lot of friends down there as well, that I still keep in contact today, that are from all across the country. And then I also got to hear from a lot of speakers. And then last year I actually went to Detroit, which was nice. And I got even the opportunity to meet and sit down with a round table with Charlie Kirk. And so that was a very enjoyable experience. And so kind of been able to like foster amongst myself, but also many others, a love for civics, a passion for history. And so I think it's a wonderful organization. I'm glad to still be a part of it and as much as I can. And so I've been with them for almost half a decade now.
Well, I'm just amazed at your ability that you got involved early there. And I know you and I talked in high school. You were trying to form a club for that. And I think you may have started doing that as I was on my way to finishing my term there when we were doing a lot of other things at that point with with COVID. And we were having some meetings where people were pro-mask and anti-mask. And there were, I had made a promise early on when I ran in 2013 that I would only serve 2 terms. And I had put that on my Facebook page. And I feel very strongly that for a lot of politicians, that's not a bad idea to just allow there to be turnover of these positions. I know on the national level, you get some of these people that serve 30, 40 years or more. And sometimes you think Congress should be a nursing home. It's just ridiculous. And I feel strongly that people should get in and serve and so that's amazing. So your personal beliefs are strong. You have faith, Aiden, and you've used that and worked hard to share your faith with others and to promote things like that are part of your faith. So that's exciting that you're willing to share that. And I think Charlie Kirk just really magnified how important that is to be a person of faith. And he was so respectful, even though many people differed with him, and he would engage them and he would debate. And I think as the videos have come out, if some of us haven't been as dialed in with the work that Charlie had, that was really fascinating. So as a conservative, you've been you've been a target now. And I saw on your podcast you were on the other day, you were talking about some of these attack ads, which I have not seen one, by the way. When I use YouTube, I have no commercials on there, so I probably missed some stuff. But so tell me about that. Who do you think's doing it? What are they about?
Yeah, so it was a very peculiar thing. I said on the podcast, I was supping at our dining hall, and I was having lunch, and I get an email from a constituent whom I haven't met before, and they say, "Well, hey, I haven't heard about you before, but I just saw a television ad running against you saying that we shouldn't vote for you. I have no idea who's paying for these. It's probably someone on the left, and that means that maybe you're the candidate we should support. Can I get a yard sign?" And so I get this email, and I'm like, "Wait, what?" And at first I was in disbelief. At first I thought someone was just, yanking my chain or whatever. But we started looking into it, and then we finally actually got a video of it. And so they use, I think it's AI voice. It's an AI advertisement. So they're not even creative with this. And they use the exact same video against me as they did against like 30 or so other candidates. And we figured out who's behind it by just looking up their campaign finance reports. It's a group called Ohioans United for Public Education, and they have a sister group called Ohioans Against Extremism. I was made a red flag because I was involved with Turning Point USA, which I think is crazy. I was basically made a red flag because I love my country. I want to do what I can to support that and to give that love to other individuals as well, and to foster civil dialogue to help perpetuate that. And so they made the ad against me. Everything they were saying was not based in fact. They were trying to say that I quote unquote pit parents against teachers, which is just not true. And the other one was they were trying to say that and this is them saying, I support unaccountable private school vouchers that would defund our public schools, unquote. I mean, I don't, my stance on vouchers is I think if we make our Medina City School District so great, so amazing, and we can continue to do that, we have an amazing school district. I mean, there's a lot of good opportunities, but if we can even excel even more and try to be as great as possible, then I think we're in a very solid position because it gives us the opportunity to say, oh, okay, I have the opportunity because of the backpack bill. I have the opportunity to go to a dozen other schools. I don't want to, though, because I have an amazing school district in front of us. And so that's my stance on it. I want to make our schools better, not tear down anyone else. That's all. I have a passion for the school district that I just came out of. I graduated in 2024. One of the current board members, Miss Amy Smoyer, actually handed me my diploma. And so I have a love for education, and I want to give that to people. And I want to, I kind of say this haphazardly, but like, I want to make a bunch of nerds. I feel like, whether you're an art nerd or like a history nerd or whatever, I feel like students should find their niche. Students should find the thing that they love, and they should study that, go down rabbit holes, learn things, find your favorite, if you like art, find your favorite painter, and kind of learn from that. Whatever it could be. I think education is a beautiful thing. I think we are very gifted here in the United States to have 13 years basically or more of quality education. And I just want to see what we can do to make that education even better, to make those students enjoy it, and to make it accountable to our taxpayers as well.
So generally, you are more in favor of parents and their involvement with children versus just totally turning kids over to a system and having no parental involvement. If I'm not putting word, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I mean,
That's
you
completely true. Yeah, I think it's important because there is you can't learn everything in school, and you can't learn everything at home. It has to be a good balance of the two. When it comes to reading, our literacy rates, which 24% of our third graders can't read at a third grade level. I think that's a problem. One thing that I think may be attributing to that is that students are not being read at home. The ideas that are given in the schools have to be perpetuated onto the kitchen table, and the ideas that are given onto the kitchen table, morals, ethics, and virtues, they need to be exhibited and followed through at the school. So they have to be in a coexisting relationship, both the home and the school. And so, the parent is kind of that middle ground, kind of seeing what the child is learning and then how to make that applicable to what's going on at home. A lot of parents, ask their kids, what'd you learn at school day? And most of them say, well, I don't know. And so, that parent being that gap, I think is very important. And so I wholeheartedly support the parents being involved in the education.
thing about being stigmatized because of your belief. People used to say that about John Kennedy. He was Catholic and ran for president, and people didn't think a Catholic could be president. Can you imagine that? That you can't have faith that's slightly different than others. So I mean, we should be beyond those days, and for somebody to be targeting you because of your faith is despicable. And here's the other thing. We have some of the best teachers
Mhm.
anywhere in Medina. Medina has one of the best systems in the state. It really does. And Medina educates a wide variety of demographics. Okay, I know there's another system in Medina that tends to only have kids from more wealthy families. Medina has all different types, some wealthy, some not, some are on assistance. And Medina does a great job educating. We have teachers, 98% of them love the students and are the best teachers ever. It doesn't matter what that union contract is, they would be there and help with the kids. So that's a positive thing. I think when you get elected, Aidan, you're part of a great system. I know Mr. Sable is a very astute superintendent. He's very very smart, very academically minded, and so forth. So I think you would work well with him. And you and I talked off camera previously. You have a great relationship with the treasurer. You're on the finance committee. How have you enjoyed the finance committee?
I love it. Like I said, I'm a huge nerd for a lot of things, and so I love becoming a nerd of campaign finance. It was nice to hear, updates on what's going on with something called House Bill 96. It's the state appropriations bill, so all the money coming down and all the stuff that was put in there. And so I really enjoy every opportunity I get to be on the committee, to kind of learn, to give my input. And so I really enjoy that. Mr. Chambers does a great job with the district. I'm really thankful for and the working relationship that I have with Mr. Chambers.
That's good. And it's, when I was on there toward the end, I think our yearly budget was close to $100 million
Mhm.
with the funds, excuse me, with the funds that would come in and the reimbursements from the federal government and so forth. It was close to 100 million per year. So it's a very significant amount of money that runs through the district. And I know sometimes people might look and say, oh, they've got 45 million in their account or they have 30, they don't need money. Well, the way the funding works, they start raising money and then it goes down over time and it doesn't come, I know in Pennsylvania, the school boards meet and they just say, here's what our expenses are, and they just change the taxes every year. Thank God Ohio doesn't do that, but we do have kind of a system that's very difficult to do because occasionally you have to go back to the voters. Now, there have been some increases in inside millage and so forth that have helped to give more money, based on new construction and so forth, that have given some more monies to the districts. But I have, I went to Medina. My two children have graduated from Medina. Years ago, my dad served on the Medina School Board back in the 70s when the original high school was built and when Heritage was built. He was on the school board back then and served with some great people. Len Morris from Medina Auto Parts was on there with dad, and Virginia Gendrivin, who now has passed away. Len's passed away too. But there were some really good people. I think Cal Weibel was on there that owned the car dealership at one point. But I would love to see your name added to that roster, Aidan. And I think you bring a different side to the equation. And here's the other thing I'll say too. Some people think, well, he's younger or he's got his conservative views. Here's the other thing I would say. Even somebody who doesn't necessarily agree with your conservative views, if they're in education and they're fighting this, you will do them a service because if you serve on the board, you will give another perspective. And you're 1 out of 5 votes. You're not going to win all the votes. Okay. I didn't win all the votes when I was on the board. Sometimes it would be 4-1. Sometimes it was 3-2 when we passed board docs and I wanted to get board docs and we won that fight 3-2. And I think it's great because it gives more. We added the software that gives the ability to see what you're going to vote on and so forth. And they still use that software. But it was a fight with the board. It was $4,000 a year. Do we do that? Well, let's send a 300-page PDF and you can click through it and see what you're going to vote on. Well, it's much better using board docs. It's a great system. And sometimes you have to spend a little bit of money. But you being on there, and we've had, Mr. Eastwood was on there. He was conservative. Myself, Valerie Pavlik, Mr. Harrison was on there before, and then he's commissioner now. But we've had different times where we've had others on there. But I mean, I think your age gives a different perspective. You have wisdom beyond your years from what I've watched, and you work harder than 4 politicians combined. You are hustling and working and also going to school. And you work at the prosecutor's office as well in Ashland, correct?
Correct. Yes, I work in the civil division of the prosecutor's office and assist my first assistant prosecuting attorney.
Good. So, I mean, I think it's fascinating that you're willing to do that. I remember when I went to college, I was busy playing soccer at Mount Vernon and really didn't have time to think about things that were going on back home. But you feel with the distance that you'll still be able to commute back and be involved in the committees and so the committees you might get assigned to and so forth, you'll
Yeah,
be able to do.
irregardless of the election results, I'll be moving off campus back home, and so I'll still be at home. It's going to be a great opportunity, and I'll still be commuting out here to university. I go to Ashland University. I'm a proud Ashland Eagle, and we're one of the closest universities to Medina. Unfortunately, we do not have any universities or colleges in Medina, and so I chose one of the closest ones with a strong statesmanship program, the Ashbrook Center, and so very thankful for the opportunities that I have here. And I'm also thankful for the fact that the Medina City School District actually has a partnership with our College of Education to try to get new teachers from Ashland to Medina. And so I'm looking forward to helping serve as like a conduit between the two, from being an Ashland Eagle, and being on the school board as well.
Good, good. Well, I'm running for trustee in
Mhm.
Montville, and we have just a little bit of Montville, the southeast corner, believe it or not, that's Wadsworth, and then we have a pretty decent section, including part of Rustic Hills. You go on certain streets, and it's Highland, and so you go east of that, it's Highland, but most of Montville is in Medina schools.
Mhm.
So, but yes, I am running for one of the trustees seats there. I've lived in Montville over, I believe it's 39 years. I grew up in Montville until I was 21. Then we bought a house in the city until I was 27. And then we built a house over in Maplewood Land. And we raised our two children there, and they're both married now. I have a grandson with my son actually became an attorney like you're looking to do. And he went to my alma mater, Mount Vernon Nazarene, and he went to Akron University and uh, you know met a girl, and he got married, has a baby, and so I have a grandson,
Very
and
nice.
so that's an exciting phase of life for us. And our daughter is in Columbus. She does HR work with Bath and Body Works, and she is actually she just took a different position within the company, and her husband does commercial real estate with Colliers, and he's doing very well down there. So they both are busy and connected to. They're trying to settle into the Upper Arlington district area there,
Very
and
nice.
which is a very good school district. But people pick communities
Hmm.
because of school districts. And people, that's why they look at it very carefully because they want to be sure that um, there won't be chaos in Medina. Okay, Medina has gone through some chaos at different points. What can you say to me or to voters to say, I'm not going to be the guy creating chaos. I'm going to help uh, get things done, you know?
Yeah. Well, for the first point that you made about, people are looking for a community. I was born and raised in Kenton County, Kentucky, on the other side of the river, Cincinnati, and I moved up on account of our family moved up on account of my father's job in 2017, and that was right before the start of my sixth grade year. And we chose Medina largely in part because of the school district. I was very involved in theater, and the big thing that kind of persuaded me, to be wanting to go to Medina. I didn't have much of a choice for that matter. Like my parents are moving, so am I. I'm a sixth grader. But the big part that really made me comfortable about moving to Medina is the fact that we had a wonderful performing arts program. We have a wonderful community theater in Medina. And so that really made me feel comfortable. My parents were happy with the fact that we have a great school district. And so our schools are a very strong point of our community, and people are looking at these schools. And so once again, seeing what we can do to make our schools as great as possible is something very important. And to your second point, I think it's important that we don't have a divisive school board. I don't think that we need to be going on there to stir up problems or what have you. There's a lot of problems that are going on in national politics. I don't think they need to go down to the school districts level. We are just trying to educate kids, to give children a well-rounded education, and make sure that they are prepared for the rest of their life. But I will also, I mean, I suppose in contrary to that, I will be asking a lot of questions. I think it's important that we equip the public with knowledge that makes them informed voters and informed parents of the district. And so I hope people don't mind, but I'll be asking a lot of questions, and I want to
Yeah,
make sure
I
that people
always
know things.
would, and I feel like 99.9% of the time I was this way, but I always told the superintendent, I said, I don't like surprises, and I'm not going to surprise you. If there's something that I've requested and I don't have an answer to it, and I've told you and I bring it up and we're going to talk about it, I'm not trying to a gotcha moment because we're on camera with the public and so forth. I tried not to do that. And I feel like the administration was fair too. It's an interesting dichotomy because you don't do the day to day, you're the
Mhm.
board, and you get served up a platter at the meetings, and it's either yes or no. Okay. And you might have 25 people that you're hiring, and one of them you don't feel would be the right person, but do you separate that person out? Do you vote for the block? Do you not? We would have to separate things out based on conflicts of interest sometimes. So you'd have to look at the agenda and say, oh, and you mentioned music. Well, my nephew was in music, and so I would separate him out typically from voting, even though he didn't grow up in my household, so he technically wasn't a conflict of interest. But I would try to separate him out so
Mhm.
I would abstain from that and so forth. So you do. There's a lot of preparation for those meetings. Believe it or not, sometimes there's 300 pages of materials to look at
Oh, goodness.
and to work through with that. But we do have a very good administration. I remember when I was on there in my last year, we did the portrait of a graduate, and it was a really good process. They got a lot of community people involved, and they were looking at, hey, what are we trying to do? What's the goal here? And part of it's creating a student who becomes a lifelong learner. Well, you think about that.
Mhm.
If you graduate in 1988, you stop learning, you're not going to learn about the internet. Okay. I mean, if you graduated 6 years ago and you stop learning about AI, you're going to be behind the eight ball if you don't learn about AI today. So, what's your thoughts? That brings up another topic. What's your thoughts about AI? How's that going to affect education and the job market in the future? What do you think?
I mean, it's rapidly evolving. Take for instance, in my field, I do a lot of legal writing. AI has made it to where I don't have to scour through books in the county law library. I now just go on to LexisNexis or Westlaw and look up what I need to know, and it'll help me find it. And so it's something we have to deal with, but we still want to make sure that our students are learning how to be an intelligent individual, how to have that intellectual thought. And so I think that we need to adapt it in some aspects of our classes in the same way that when I was in elementary school and middle school, there was computer classes. I think people need to know how to use it, but they don't. It shouldn't be like a prosthetic leg. It should maybe be a crutch when necessary. It should not be a prosthetic leg. It should not be replacing your legs. And the effect that like when our students write papers, I think it's important that students read books and write papers on them. When they do that, they should be signing an honesty statement saying, "I did not use AI in the pursuit of this paper," because I think we still need to desire genuine intelligence. Because at the end of the day, if we I don't think we're going to like all be replaced by AI, like Terminator style. I don't think Terminator is going to take over the world, but like it's going to be an aspect of our life. And so I want to make sure our students are equipped with that knowledge the same way that, my generation was equipped with, how to use Chromebooks, MacBooks, and computers. Equip people with that knowledge, but don't make them so reliant on it to where they can't function without it. I think that's a very important aspect of
I've
AI.
it sounds like you embrace computers. I do know a little bit from a glimpse from the Dunkin' Donuts meeting we had where you showed me your speech for Charlie Kirk. You typed it on very interesting paper that was heavy paper, and it was like just a not a full 8.5 by 11. It was a thinner paper that you had for your speech, and you typed it on what was it, a Selectric or an old typewriter that you
No, no,
did?
electrics. I don't use electric typewriters except in the office.
Oh,
I use a Smith Corona Sterling from the 1940s.
oh my
I,
goodness.
I love my old typewriters, and I've used it since debate class in high school. At Medina High School, I won the best presiding officer of the Senate, and I got several awards through our debate club at Medina High School. I use that typewriter because a couple of things. It's like the sound of it's like the symphony of productivity. That's kind of what I've
Yeah.
called it. But I am an old soul in that effect. If you were to look at my room, you would see probably about I think I have about 200-300 records in there between jazz all the way up to like rock and roll. And I have a analog record player from the 80s. I'm an old soul. I'm going to be completely honest. And so yeah, my speech was typed on a 8.5 by 11 folded on my trusty Smith Corona typewriter because to me like that whole process makes sense to me because I'm not using AI to write my speeches. I write my speeches from the heart, and because of that, I'm able to deliver them better. And so once again, it's one of those examples of an aspect where genuine intelligence, genuine thought makes the byproduct, the end product, much better.
Aiden, who inspired you the most in the past?
I would say probably my great Aunt B. I love her to death. She's awesome. Ever since I was a child, she always kind of encouraged me to think, ask questions, maybe be curious. My love and affinity for statesmanship and politics has kind of come from her. A lot of the books that I listen to or that I read and music that I listen to has come from her. And so I think my great Aunt B, if I had to choose within my family. Outside of that, if I had to say something, um, probably. There's a lot of people. I think a lot of people have shaped me. At high school, it was my debate coach, Mr. Quaid. We are on polar opposites of the political spectrum. He's actually running for school board in the Highland School District. Polar opposites of the political spectrum. But we were still able to come together to try to understand each other better. I had the opportunity of listening at Ohio State at the civics department between Colonel West and Robert George, two intellectual thinkers, and they were talking about exchanging, in a discussion, intellectual currency of logic, reason, and examples, and not trying to get you. That was something that was taught to me by Mr. Quaid, and so I think through family it'd be my great aunt B, and through maybe the high school it would be my debate coach, Mr. Quaid.
Oh, that's really kind of you to do that. Yeah, he's running for Highland. That's going to be a difficult race. I know John Ross. I know Mr. Wolney. In fact, when I got on Medina, I was down at some training with Ron Ross and Mr. Wolney was there back in the summer of 2013, and that's when I met Chris. And we've known the family for many years. But and then Schreiber. So I think those three will probably do pretty well over there. But my wife and I both voted for just Aidan for Medina.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So I know there's been some controversy. I think the outrage page was talking about that, whether that's okay or not. Well, you can vote either one, two, or three people. Uh, even Mr. Quaid, I think, chimed in and agreed you could do that. So that does help you out. And you are the only conservative, fiscal conservative running for, I believe, for Medina School Board at this point.
I
Definitely.
would I would have bridged that a little bit. I'm the only conservative running in both a social and a fiscal aspect, but I would say that one of my opponents, Jean Pritchard, she's an incumbent. Her and I socially probably wouldn't agree on the same things, but I do think she is principled when it comes to fiscal matters, and so I think I would include her in that same lot of being fiscally principled and fiscally conservative. She speaks out when necessary, and so whilst I personally I don't know if I would 100% endorse her. I still think that she is fiscally principled, and I think the voters should take that into account. But I just want to make sure that I'm completely genuine with that matter, because even though they are my running mates, they are still every one of them is wonderful individuals. Jean is fiscally principled. It's just a matter at the end of the day of whether or not you would like to elect
Well,
a
I don't
conservative or
think Jean
liberal.
needs help. I think she's
Yeah,
going to do fine, but I think Aidan would be a great addition to the board.
thank you.
And I had Jean in high school with Jim and student council. She was a very good teacher, just like you had Mr. Quaid.
Mm.
And but yeah, you I think you would be a great addition to the board. And so, hey, we wish you the best of luck next Tuesday, Aiden, and I hope that you get the check mark next to your name, and I hope that the voters will give me a check mark with Montville, where I plan to be a fiscal conservative and very careful about bringing tax matters to the ballot, trying to live within our means. I know the
Mhm.
township between 2019 and 2024 has had spending increases in the realm of 45%, and yet during that period, their revenues went up 35%. So we really have more of a spending problem than a funding problem within Montville. And Montville is the second highest taxed district within the county at this point. I guess Lafayette has reached the new height with
Yeah.
that. But Montville is a great place to live. You're in the city, right? Are you
I live in Lafayette Township.
Lafayette? Okay.
When we
All
were
right.
building our house, we lived in Montville.
Okay, and I live not too far from the border of Lafayette because I'm in Maplewood there. But yeah, we love Chippewa Lake. We love the community, and it's just a great place to raise children. And as I say, I think you're going to uh, do a great job helping to keep Medina a great school system and having differing thought on the board and working hard to have freedom. You
Mhm.
believe in freedom and so forth, and that students should have the ability to speak up and have freedom. So I think you're just going to be great. But you have any last thoughts, Aiden?
Well, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to sit down and chat. And whilst I don't live in your township, I will be I have and will be supporting you for your race and as a township trustee. The township is going to be very blessed. I just wish you were in mine. I wish we could we could steal you from Montville and bring you over to Lafayette. But I look forward to seeing you serve for your township as well. And but yeah, we got one more week, and I wish you the best of luck.
All right. Thank you so much, Aiden. You have a great day, sir.
You as well.
Take care.